Master Key to Self-Realization. The Spiritual Science of Self-Knowledge, as presented by His Holiness Shri Siddharameshwar Maharaj. Chapter-1. The Importance of Self-Knowledge. At the beginning of this exposition, reverential adoration is offered to Shri Ganesh first, then to Shri Saraswati, and finally to Shri Sadguru. What is the reason for offering salutations in this order? If someone were to ask, if the sequence of this adoration is changed, will there be confusion? The answer has to be yes. There will be confusion. This is because Shri Ganesh is the deity for meditation and contemplation, and Shri Saraswati is the deity for the exposition of teaching through words. With the help of these two deities, the deity in the form of the light of the self that arises in the heart of the aspirant is none other than the Sadguru. Therefore, the Sadguru necessarily has to be adored after Shri Ganesh and Shri Saraswati. Only when the understanding of the subject becomes firm does the grace of the Sadguru descend. Neither the exposition of this text nor the contemplation on the contents of this text will by themselves lead the aspirant to the goal. Therefore, one must reverentially adore both Shri Ganesh and Shri Saraswati. There is an ancient method of expounding the teaching of Vedanta that is commonly followed in this tradition, the Inchagiri Sampradaya, when presenting the subject matter of this text to the aspirant. According to this method, first, the manifest form of the Sadguru is seen by the eyes. Then the knowledge about the teachings of Vedanta and the value and significance of these precious teachings is extolled through the words of the Guru. Then a mantra, a subtle name of God, is given, and the aspirant is instructed to practice meditation on the repetition of the mantra for a short period of time, usually several weeks, to imprint the mantra's significance within. This provides a means for the aspirant to make the mind more subtle so that the teachings to follow can be more easily grasped and realized. This is the seeker's initiation to the teaching and initiation to become an aspirant on the path to self-realization. In accordance with the method of the saints that has been outlined above, the Sadguru first explains about the subject that is to follow, then indicates its characteristics, and finally follows by imparting a detailed knowledge of the subject. In most schools of education, when teaching small children about any subject, the teacher first verbally informs the child about the subject matter that will be taught. This is called the kindergarten method of education. In a similar way, initially the Sadguru verbally gives you a concept or idea of reality, such as you are he, or only Brahman exists, or some other similar form of mantra that is to be contemplated upon. Through repetition or chanting, this idea will be indelibly imprinted on the mind. This is called the tradition or sampradaya of the Sadguru. Through this preliminary method, the aspirant achieves results sooner, and so be it. Afterwards, the Guru expounds the truth, that is, the subject matter, to an ordinarily intelligent aspirant. And the Sadguru understands so deeply that the aspirant is able to receive what the Sadguru conveys about that which he is teaching. However, the main difficulty is in experientially realizing what has been intellectually understood. Through the exposition of the subject by the Sadguru, one understands what the self, Atman, is. However, the ghost of doubt pops up in the mind of the aspirant in the form of the question, how am I the self? And the aspirant's mental attitude does not become free of doubt. There is an intellectual understanding, but no realization. The remedy for this is to study with determination and learn the teaching. Unless there is sustained and repeated study, it will not be fully understood and realized. For example, in the instructional handwriting book, the letters presented are very beautiful. We understand this, but initially we cannot write the letters in the same way. If, however, the same letters are written repeatedly, then by virtue of that practice or study, the letters are beautifully formed as soon as the pen touches the paper. Here someone might ask, how much study or practice is required to learn the subject well? And the answer is, the study and the practice or effort must continue relentlessly according to each one's capacity until it is understood or fully realized. A general example can be stated here to impress upon the mind of the aspirant the importance of repeated study. An ordinarily intelligent man can understand something if it is explained to him 2 or 3 times. If he repeats it 10 or 20 times, it becomes a habit. If he repeats it 100 times, it becomes like an addiction. Once he becomes familiar with it 1,000 times, it becomes inherent nature for the one practicing it. If we look at the fibers of the jute plant, they are so delicate and fine that they become scattered in all directions when blown by the wind. However, when the same fibers are entwined together to form a rope, it is so strong that it can bind even a strong and violent elephant to a small peg. In a similar way, great is the power of the repetition of the study of this type of practice. It is indeed true that Para-Brahman is all-pervading and eternally free. However, the wind in the form of mind has become so strong in us due to misdirected practice and study, to birth after birth, that it has imprisoned the eternally free Brahman in the thought of identification with the body. About the tremendous result of repeated practice, Saint Tukaram has said, "Whatever is unachievable becomes achievable only by virtue of repeated study and practice." Recognizing the importance of this study, the aspirant must adore the principles symbolized by Ganesh, and Saraswati. This means that one must fulfill himself by continuous meditation and learn through repeatedly hearing the exposition of truth. Now, before one begins this study, it will be desirable for the aspirant to know many other things relevant to the subject. Why has the illusion, I am the body, arisen in a human being? What was the condition of the human being when he was born? How did he develop this idea of me and mine? Is his condition in the world free from fear? If so, by whom and how was he helped to be rid of that fear? All of these things must be taken into consideration. First, the human being was lying twisted up in a small space inside the mother's womb. When he was born, he came into this boundless world and slightly opened his eyes and looked around. Upon seeing the immense space and tremendous light, he averted his eyes and he was in shock, saying to himself, "Where is this that I have come alone? Who is going to give me support? What is going to be my fate?" These types of fear arose in his mind. Immediately after birth, with the first shock, he started to cry. After a little while, he was given a drop of the mother's milk to lick, and with this he felt relieved, thinking that all is well and that he had someone's support. Thus he pacified himself. However, that first shock of fear was so ingrained in his mind that he became startled at the slightest sound, and then again becomes quiet when given his mother's breast. In this way, taking external support at every step, this human being became dependent on the support of his parents. As he grew older, his parents, as well as those who looked after him as a child, started giving him knowledge about the world. After that, his school teachers taught him the various physical sciences, such as geography, geometry, and geology, and the like, which are valueless like dust. As one enters the stage of youth, he again looks for additional props for his life. As it is determined in the world that support for life comes from money and wife and family and such, he gathers wealth and takes on a wife. He takes it for granted that he can be sustained on this worldly support alone, and he squanders away his life. With fame, learning, power and authority, wealth and wife, he gets added prosperity and becomes entangled more and more. His principal possessions and his entire support are his wife and wealth, status and youth, beauty and authority. Taking special pride in all of this and becoming intoxicated with worldliness, the human being misses knowing his real nature. The pride about money and authority and beauty absorbs the man, and he forgets his real nature. Eventually, the above possessions start dwindling one by one. When these possessions start to drop off according to the law of nature, the memory of the original shock that he received earlier shakes him so to his roots, and he becomes frustrated. Panicking, he inquires, "What shall I do now? I am losing support from all sides. What will happen to me?" However, this ignorant man does not understand that all these possessions had only one solid support, which was his own existence or sense of I am. It is by that support alone that money had its value, that his wife appeared charming, that honor received seemed worthwhile, his learning gave him wisdom, his form acquired beauty, and his authority wielded power. Oh, poor man, you yourself are the support of all the above described wealth. Can there be a greater paradox than to feel that wealth gave you support? In addition to this wealth, power, and woman in youth, the beauty of form and honor, if one further receives ill-gotten fortune, how strange and perverted would one's actions become? A poet once wrote, describing the pranks of the human mind, "It is primarily a monkey. In addition to that, he gets drunk. And to top that off, a scorpion bites him." Even such a poet would put his pen down, seeing the ludicrous absurdities of this human being, and would bid goodbye to his poetic talents. The sort of man who considers his body as God and is absorbed in its worship day and night should be considered to be like a shoemaker. There is an appropriate proverb that says that a shoemaker's God should be worshipped only with shoes, or the one who carries a hide on his back. This tells us the way in which this God, the body of such a man, has to be adored. The devotion of an atheist is the feeding of his body, and his liberation is the death of the body. For such a man whose ultimate goal in life is feeding his body, and his liberation is death, there is no rising above the gross body level. This is not surprising in his case. If due to some misfortune he were to lose all his wealth, he would still borrow money to indulge in his habits of eating, drinking, and enjoying. If creditors were to hound him, he would declare insolvency to be rid of the whole issue. And when death strikes him, ultimately he just lies dead, passing away just as he had come. Could there be anything more tragic or wretched than this sort of life? Why should the woman who showers praise on her husband for getting her a lovely nose ring think of the Lord who has provided her with a nose to put the nose ring on? In the same way, how can the animalistic human beings who only look to the body as the be-all and end-all of life see God? The one whose power gives the sun its existence as the sun, the moon its existence as the moon, the gods their existence as gods, is the one almighty God. It is He who is the support of all, who is present in the hearts of all beings, and has become invisible to man. The one whose eyes are trained on external objects sees only that which is external. The word aksha is a synonym for I in Marathi. The A is the very first letter of the alphabet, and the K is one of the last consonants. It means that whatever the eye sees will lie within the range of these two letters of the alphabet. It will only bring information or knowledge of external objects. These gross objects will be visualized by the gross eye, and the subtle will be sensed by the senses, which are subtle. However, one letter of the alphabet that comes after k in Marathi is ñ. The letter ñ indicates knowledge that cannot be seen either by the gross external eye or the subtle eye of the intellect. Therefore, the intellect and the senses together indicate the eye with the synonym k. Like the eye, the other sense organs, the ear, nose, and tongue, are all pointing outwards and continue to exist on the strength of external objects.